Yes, this is just for myself. Again, it varies from person to person how we understand things, and interpreter to interpreter or translator to translator, depending on what dialect we are talking. Um, some of the words that we have to translate from English to Inuktitut are very hard to translate because you have to explain what they mean. Because sometimes we don't have one word for words like peace or security or war. And justice in particular is a hard one to translate because it's one of the words that is misunderstood both in English and other languages, I guess, and in Inuktitut. Justice has become a word of the legal system or the court system in referring to a judge or being charged for something and taken to court and facing the justice of the peace or a judge. That's why we have to try and explain that word justice to make people understand that it doesn't necessarily mean the courts or that they'll be judged through a court system. So what I used was for justice sa tao yun lang ninyo pinaglutuminin, which means that anyone who has done something to another person, in this case number 5, and to make sure that anyone who raped someone during war faces justice. I put down anyone who did this during war will have consequences or something else will happen to them in return for what they did. Most people will understand it in our language. And in peace, concerning peace, it's a very good word, Simon. Again, we have to reverse it from saying peace, sailing, Simon, all those words pertaining to calmness and relaxing and harmony and just being peace with yourself, in self, or around yourself. But in these terms that we are using, peace has become a word that is directly connected to war. So when we say peace, is often used now because to have peace, you have to prevent war or make sure war doesn't happen. So is it has to be in the sentence where the subject matter is pertaining to war in this document. But if I use peace in another concept, like peace of mind and also tranquility around our environment, I would use Simon, silent or account. Those kind of words are used when used in a different context in a sentence. Also, security, as I explained before, oftentimes security is up here in reference to securities, like a guard who secures a building, or someone who watches a building, or a security person in a building or around a building. And security has become that form of understanding when it's trying to make sure someone is not in danger, or if there's an emergency, what the security was, or how do you secure it. Security, kawisaktaw tsaka hamata, or wachidaw tsaka hamata. Again, watcher is another adopted word from a watcher. um, those kinds, when you use security, like in food security, I never understood that for the longest time, because I was really involved in trying to get food security in the north. And I didn't understand. That was the first time I ever heard food security, and I said, "What does that mean?" Um, someone told me to make sure everybody has enough food to eat. Oh, you mean? Then I said, "You mean to make sure they don't go hungry?" And it's simple as that. Um, we have to simplify words and not generalize them so much that people don't pay attention to what is written, because it's so general and it's in reference to everything. Um, because one word can be departmentalized, like in a government. That word security can be used in so many ways within a sentence or a context. Uh, War. Inuit are very laid back, peaceful people. There it is again, peaceful people. And we never really knew anything about war until the army came up here in the old days, where there was a World War I, and they brought all their weapons and of mass destruction up here, and we got it. Um, we understood what it meant right at that point, because war, we've never been at war. We're people of mediation and people of negotiation, moderation, and we talk it out till we're blue in the face and make sure that everybody is in consensus. That's why we have a consensus style territorial government, because we have to make sure that we decide for everybody who lives in Nunavut, not just Inuit, but there's other people who are longtime Northerners who have to be included. If we try to do it in a way that is too adversarial, like the adversarial system, which is now interconnected to justice, that is not really our culture. Adversarial system, rule of law, those kind of stuff don't fit into our Inuit culture. Although in the younger generation, it has become part of their life because that's how they grew up in it. Uh, those of us who grew up on the land, in our homeland, in our camps, see it in a totally different way, and how we understand all this legal system. It's a very foreign system. It's a Eurocentric system. It's a white man's system, and it's only designed to benefit one culture, and it doesn't necessarily. That's why we don't have words that are like the English words that are pertaining to always at war or fighting or always trying to win over somebody. There's always a competition words in English that we don't necessarily have in Inuktitut. Uh, only competition we have is in games, and it's a fun competition, not to overkill. Safety, we got words for safety. Um, Again, safety is mostly in reference to hunting and being in a safe place at home, um, and make sure that we're not in a dangerous situation like when we're out hunting. Majority of the terminology we have was in reference to nomadic or hunting lifestyle, and women who make the home in a community. Uh, it's a woman who makes the community, and our men are the hunters that feed us, and we have our roles that were passed down for generations and generations. That's where our words come from. And another thing that protecting, again, protecting, how do you protect women in a war? You go up against the people with the gun and protect them, or how do you, um, especially from rape, do you put yourself in between the person, the woman and the girl, or do you pre-plan how to protect, like get away from the war before it happens, those kind of things. Uh, by translating it literally or the way it sounds, I would question, but how do you do that? How do you protect women and girls when war erupts all of a sudden and you don't have time to do anything? So pre-planning and that's one of the words I use is it's now called strategic planning. But that again, strategic planning is like a war word. And excuse me, everything in the English language seems to be about war and fighting each other and trying to see who's the best. And it's a very competitive language where it has no room for other than one person to win. The self. In our culture, the whole is more important than the self. Um, that and our words are like that. Our words are that is so inclusive, and um, we are always told to respect our elders, our neighbors, and help feed people who are down and out, who need water and food, rather than hugging all the food to yourself for another time. Um, Even if it's the last bite you have to share it equally. and portion it equally. That's the kind of thought process we have when it comes to our culture. So these are really foreign words that we have to use uh, nowadays to try and convey the message from the white man. And a lot of times I cringe inside because I'm not used to saying them. And even though I can say like that, it seems to be always condescending from top down, telling us what to do, and it's like a threat. Even this thing in itself is like a threat. The written document. This is what's going to happen to you if you don't follow these rules, or this is like fear in imposing fear on someone. When you read it, it's very scary. Like it it promotes fear and insecurity, uh, no justice, and it doesn't show how to help women, girls, and men, young boys. Women and girls are not the only ones who get raped. It's young boys too, and that's why it's so. It seems one side. I know it's for women's protection and girls' protection. Maybe if there's better ways to say them, it could be done. But I know I have to translate it in a way because it's not my message. It's a message of the highest people of the land. And I think that's about all. I had a hard time talking about decision makers. Anybody can be any organization, the church, the hunters and trappers organization, the government, the local city council, um, church auxiliaries. Those are the decision makers. Now, who decides on doing that kind of stuff? Again, I know for a fact they would start arguing with each other, trying to say, I'm the one who's going to make the decision in our community. We are the ones who make the decisions. There's too many decision makers and no real leadership anywhere at all nowadays. Um, that's about it, I think.